Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Mhm.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes, we can.
Thank you again for attending this event. We appreciate it. We hope you found that movie enjoyable and interesting. My name is Stacy, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm a white woman with gray hair wearing a gray shirt. I just want to apologize for the some of the glitch in the video in terms of those. I don't know if everybody saw those, but there's some weird bars across the screen. So we'll work on that internally, but hopefully it didn't detract too much from what you folks were seeing. I also want to mention that there is closed captioning feature, live captioning feature you can enable on your phone. So please go ahead and do that if you like. At Inform Your Community, we offer events that combine information with fun. And we find the best way to talk about difficult topics is to start talking about difficult topics. And so you can find our social media links on the bottom of our website. And if you are watching this in video, you can go ahead and like and follow us on YouTube, as well as please feel free to tell your friends about us and make sure you're all signed up for they're all signed up for our mailing list as well. So marijuana and the law is a really important topic. Clearly, it has a major impact in the United States, with 19 states having full legalized marijuana at this point. 4 states have full illegalization of marijuana, and 27 states have a combination of decriminalization and medicinal use legislation in place. So it's important to remind everybody that we are not experts on this topic, but we're here to have this opportunity to talk about this movie and share some basic information on the topic so that we can know more about it. Indeed, and to help us understand this topic further, it is our one and own Hanali. So we've watched this movie together, and now here is Hanali to help us facilitate this discussion. Hi, Hanali. Thank you for your help with having us discuss this important topic.
Yes, thank you, Anastasia. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hanali, and I'm the program director for the Popcorn and Chat for Inform Your Community. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an Indian woman, and I'm currently wearing a red top. I have black hair, black eyes, and my background is my wall, my white wall. Feel free to unmute yourself for our discussion when you have a comment, or you can type it in the comment box or use your hand raised icon throughout the discussion. So without further ado, let's get started. So knowing that 48.2 million Americans have reported that they use marijuana, and it being used equally among races, ethnicities, and income brackets, spreading awareness and educating ourselves about the laws, pot culture, different uses and economical benefits of marijuana is very important. So what is your opinion on how marijuana and law was portrayed in the movie? And feel free to unmute yourself or put in the chat box.
I think it's pathetic that we have lost the war on drugs, yet we keep on perpetuating myth about drug use of all kinds. I mean, people as kind of, and especially marijuana, which is like less dangerous than oxycodone, less dangerous than many other drugs. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, completely understand. Yeah. And people are often also reluctant to talk about marijuana because of the potential legal implications and professional stigma of marijuana use, making it a very controversial topic. I've seen that around the social groups that I hang out with. You can see where they're open about certain topics and where they're not. So I've seen that stigma around a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think influences the perception of marijuana in our culture today, considering that?
Well, I mean, one of the things they I think make really clear in the film is the racial element of of this situation related to how we're enforcing the laws and so forth. And the comment Jessica made about OxyContin is, one of them is associated with one racial group, one of them is associated with another racial group, and so interesting how that plays out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just interesting to think that bias usually plays a way into the way people perceive certain things. It's just like you can have the two faces, and just and then you have a different reaction when you see one, you see another one. You could have a puppy and you could have a Rottweiler, and you go, and it's just like there's different reactions. So I guess that can always play its role into and a bias. And then just some people try to overcompensate when they're addressing a situation, or try to and then just like the balance, that balance scales of the law and everything like that, and ends up being something that is not clear. It's not a clear line when it comes to dealing with things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think like films like Reefer Madness play a role in how marijuana is perceived. And additionally, influences from people like John Boner, Patrick Kendi, and Charlotte Fiji. They give rise to different opinions and controversies also even in the law related like opinions and laws related to marijuana. So I think some of those famous people also have some sort of influence on how different people perceive marijuana now.
And not just the kind of old films like the Reefer Madness, but like, there's plenty of things in the media that still show that kind of stereotype of marijuana use as, kind of the Snoop Dogg kind of marijuana use, or the Cheech and Chong marijuana use. Yeah.
And also, like, when it comes to race, African Americans are arrested for violating marijuana possession laws at nearly 4 times the rate of whites, yet both ethnicities consume marijuana at roughly the same rates. So what do you think as a community we can do to help this to help with racial justice in such cases? Or is there anything that we could do, or how?
Well, it's funny just mentioning the stat alone, actually illuminating stats, just to make people just kind of take a pause and actually evaluate that for their own consideration.
Yeah, that's right.
And the movie too, that they made a movie about this, and it's centered on a white guy, is kind of takes away the unfortunate stigma that's associated with it, at least momentarily.
For sure. And I think
just as a quick, go ahead.
No, go on.
It was just a quick point that that you said that, because it always reminds me of a movie, A Time to Kill, and it was portrayed by Samuel Jackson and Matthew McConaughey, and he literally was just like, no, I'm deliberately placing you in place because I'm not able to go out there. If I go out there, I'm going to be in trouble. But if they see you coming, it might just look a little bit different, and then it might play out differently when you explain it. And then so you're like proxy or something like that. It's just interesting to see that.
Yeah. And I think like movies like those also kind of give you that perspective, even if people aren't exposed as much to marijuana. They know. I guess they see those stigmas, and when it comes to race. And I guess that's one way to bring awareness to statistics. And I think we're also starting to see a positive difference in the laws like in the 1960s, where marijuana decriminalization movement resulted in 11 US states taking measures. However, I think we still have a long way to go when it comes to laws. So, and I know some of you may have found this movie to be a powerful movie. Why was this movie powerful to you in general? Like, what stood out in the movie for you?
For me, I can tell you this, one of the scenes that was, first of all, the young kid that relied on it, and then went off to college and said, like, it's easier to get it off the streets than it is to get it legally when I like am allowed to get it legally, is crazy. But then the other one was when he's in his storage unit, and like I think they, if I remember correctly, they had accused him of like not keeping the right records and things like that. And then you see his storage unit, and the back of the storage unit, it's like every box is perfectly aligned, and everyone has like a perfect label on it. And you can't help but see that and go, this is not a person that kept sloppy records.
My issue was the federal government wouldn't let people testify, wouldn't let people, because they wanted to really get him on this. And I don't understand why. I mean, this sheriff, who, by the way, my father lives in that area, St. Louis Obispo, and it's a fairly liberal area. It's not conservative. So I don't understand, like, what the sheriff's problem is with people coming in.
I also found
understand that. And the guy who ran, there's just as much pushback on it the other way too, because the guy who ran the drug treatment facility, he's like saying, oh, it's like a gateway drug, these people that get addicted so that he can make a living out of addiction services. So in a way, it's kind of like, an addiction service person versus somebody who, and I don't think, people who really haven't done it or done it even for recreational purposes, it's really not that bad. I mean, getting drunk is worse.
And then
alcohol is legal.
Yeah.
And marijuana isn't. And to me, you can get addicted to alcohol, and that's a physical addiction. So,
yeah, I think they also mentioned that in the movie.
they did.
At one point, I think they mentioned something about to have a proper control over cannabis. It would be like, do it like they do with alcohol. People will still go out and get it, but they will have some sort of controller. I don't know. They have mentioned something along those lines. I can't completely recall, but
there's still going to be underage drinking, like there's still going to be underage marijuana use. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, for sure. And then I did also wanted to mention that I think that you mentioned that place, the location. I remember when he first opened the dispensary, a lot of political leaders, like in the chamber and the mayor, they were welcoming, and I think it's just a sheriff. So I guess it is a liberal area, but I think the cop just had the opposite opinion, or I don't know what the issue was there, but
yeah.
But yeah, and then
Well, I think that's the overarching problem though, right? Because there's this like, these are the state laws, these are the federal laws. And so you just get the right person who like wants to target something, right? And in this case, maybe we don't know what the something is, but sometimes we kind of know what the something is. And so you get targeted, and like there's the federal laws that you can prosecute on. So like it was really powerful at the end where it was like, you know, if this gets passed, I mean, if these states that have now legalization, but it's still illegal federally, that like everybody in those states who uses marijuana or has the dispensary, so forth, anyway, is potentially Charlie Lynch. So it's, so how do you, you know, who are the ones who get busted for it and get sent to jail? And then it, you know, you go back to the racial disparities.
yeah.
Does anybody else want to say anything, or we're just the three people who are here?
I'm enjoying our conversation.
Yeah.
This is John here. One of the things that was bothering me a little bit about the film is really the age of it. And 10 years old, so much has changed. I mean, at the point of that film, you know, they were talking about some states are beginning to talk about, you know, full legalization. And now there's a lot of states that have. It feels, a movie about marijuana that's 10 years old is so old. It almost paints a picture that doesn't reflect the current environment.
Mhm.
I understand that, but it's still federally illegal. So, you know.
It is, but after Obama said, you know, they're not going to prosecute federally, that's been the line that all the presidents have taken. Now, that has to be, that discrepancy has to be resolved. But, you know, every person can be, as Charlie Lynch, feels a little fear mongering rather than real current environment.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess understanding different cultural aspects also, like celebration of 420 and different terms that are used for cannabis, like ganja and skunk, is also an important step to debunk the idea of cannabis being the gateway drug in the societal aspect. And so what are some of the resources that you guys can suggest to someone wanting to learn more about marijuana and law enforcement? Where do you think someone should start, and how they can improve their knowledge on the laws and just the uses and different types of marijuana and things like that? Because I think
guess
one, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, I guess it's good to have a name, you know, now that you've got this Charlie Lynch name, you know, kind of exploring more of that, you know, because I'm thinking about what John had said, you know, updating that status and like, so what is the situation with him now? You know, one thing to do, but also there's definitely there's some laws that are in play right now. So knowing what the current law is being proposed related to that, both at, you know, your state level, you know, city level or federal level, and seeing where you stand to support or be against those, you know.
And I think one of the things that I think could also help is educating young kids, like especially in high school. When you, when at least when I was in high school, you would see the bathrooms would be the place for everybody to smoke marijuana, and it just felt like they didn't, just like any other topic. I think to use something, they should know all about it. Just like alcohol, education on alcohol is important for them to be able to properly be, I guess, be responsible when they're using it. So I think same thing goes for such things like marijuana in recreational use. knowing, informing them about different things, whether it's effect, consequences, everything is very important. And I don't think there are any classes that really teach you that. In high school, especially, maybe in college you can select those classes, but I think it's important to be aware that that's culturally there in kids nowadays, and educating them early on to be safe about it. I think that's also one way that they can do that. Well, any final comments? Anything that you guys are pressing to say? Something that really stood out to you about the movie that you want to say?
Actually, I was hoping someone could like paint a picture of how it actually started. I did miss the beginning, so just kind of curious of the way they led off. Dun 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 dun. Breaking news, whatever.
Well, the good thing is we're going to send out the link. So we're gonna send out the links. You'll get to see the introduction completely over again. If you like, since it's 8 o'clock, what do you think, Kanali? Should we wind it up?
We can, unless there's someone that wants to say something. I think one thing that really stood out to me about the movie, that I didn't think out of all the places, US would be the place. The fact that the sheriff was taking secret pictures of the patients, the workers, I think that's major invasion of privacy. And I didn't think that, that was ethically okay at all. That really, I don't know, that was messed up.
There's one thing I do want to say about and it really doesn't have to do with the movie in particular, but in the way it does, is Portugal has legalized all drugs. And Portugal has made all drugs legal, regardless of whether or not they started being illegal. And the reason why they did that is because they want people to have a safe place to shoot up in case they want to shoot up, or so that when they're ready to go into treatment, they can say, I'm ready. So it's a very different approach to making everything a crime, And that's just my opinion, that it's a medical problem. We should treat it as such addiction. Now, I'm not trying to tell anybody that marijuana is the same thing, but, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
I had a quick question, and I will stop, but I mean, it was just that someone did say that they were seeking help for something, maybe more like alcohol related. And what happened was they tried to get the help, and they were initially told that, oh, you're not far enough along that we can let you in. And it was just like catch-22. So I think people in certain cases might actually say or pretend to be worse just so they can get into places or something that could actually help them out, rehabs in general. But that was just something that came to mind because of that.
Yeah.
There is this sense, I think, kind of one theme that you all are kind of bordering on is, the ethics versus the laws of things. And, I think they touched on that in the movie a lot. Like, there's these laws, and laws need to be there because laws, that's how we live in a civilized society. But there's also the ethics of things. And sometimes those two things are not the same thing, for good or for bad.
I think even if there are controversies and opinions, I think they should still allow for research to be done so that we have evidence on proper uses and how to use it, what doses are good. With my background in pharmaceuticals, I know how much it goes into finding the tolerance levels and things like that, and what's beneficial, what's too much for what type of people. So I think allowing and accepting those tests and being able to do those trials, clinical trials, preclinical trials, I think is really helpful. And I think towards the end of the movie, they said something about starting to do that, getting approved to do that. But
I don't remember his name, but the Indian doctor,
yeah,
the guy who said, well, now we're going to take this plant and make like drugs out of them so that we can put them on the market. And in a way, that's the whole point, is that they didn't want to do that. They want to take the pure substance, which is a plant, and make oil out of it, and eat it, smoke it, whatever that you're doing with it. But they don't want to change the chemical composition of it. And by doing that, then you get a patent, and then you can sell it as a drug. And a lot of this stuff is why it's so political, because the pharmaceutical companies don't want this stuff to be legal, because then people will go to the dispensaries instead of going to their drugstore.
Yeah. But I think FDA could also take a good control over how it's approved and what criterias are actually accept, like, I guess, actually make it out of the trials after 12, 15 years of trials. So I think it could still be controlled even if there's medical evidence that some work, some don't, and also understanding different components of cannabis, like THC and CBD, and what's beneficial, what does what, is also really important.
Well, on that note, maybe it's a good time to end us off. Is that okay, Hanali?
Yeah, that sounds great, unless anyone has anything else to say. All right. So thank you so much for coming and attending this discussion. Hope you guys enjoyed the movie as well and learned something today. And I'll pass it on to Stacy to close us off today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us for Lynching Charlie Lynch and for our virtual discussion. This topic of marijuana and the law is an ongoing one, not a one and done one. So we always suggest that you go on, like we discussed in this discussion, is research things further, look things up. We encourage you to share our infographic, which you'll get after the event in a post-event email along with the video of this discussion. We encourage you to commit to one weekly action to help try to understand this issue more. It is, as you've heard, affects so many people, so good to know more about it. Familiarize yourself, for example, with your city, state, and federal laws, and your political representative stances on marijuana and the law. Have a conversation about marijuana laws with someone. And also you could even just visit a dispensary. I know they're popping up all over the places in states where it's now legal in some way, shape, or form. And so you can ask what they call a potpreneur, so entrepreneur for pot. You can ask, just go and ask and dispel your own stereotypes or learn more about the differences between, for example, CBD and THC. But just opportunities to learn are always wonderful. You can actually access the film for free on YouTube. So we're going to send that link also in our post-event email. And the link should be in the chat as well. You can look for more great events from our Popcorn and Chat series on our website. For example, we're going to have a restorative justice movie called Tribal Justice coming up. I believe that one's in June. And also we're going to ask, hopefully, that you participate in a brief survey. Tyler, might you be able to help us with that? Let's see, there we go. Go ahead and fill that out.
Your camera just turned sideways, by the way.
Oh, So anybody can fill that out except me and Hanali. And so whenever you all are done, Tide will take care of that, but I'll talk you out now anyway. So we look forward to seeing you at our additional events. You're going to get an email. This post-event email will also have in there link to survey about the event, as well as our interest survey. We encourage you to fill those out as well. They're very brief. They're not the same thing as the survey. And also check out our website for additional events. We have on May 20th, we have a children's crafting event celebrating National Police Officers Day. So I encourage you to learn more about, to come to that event, do a craft. We're going to be making minifigure capes, and you can learn more about ideas like community policing and so forth. So please join us at that event. And thank you all for coming. It looks like we might have gotten everybody. Thank you very much. I appreciate your being here. Hanali, thank you so much. And Tyler, thank you.
Thank you. Everyone has a great evening.